Okay, so it's been about a week or two, closer to 2 weeks than it is anything else, and I've had 4 DWC buckets going, and it's time to do the cleanouts. You know, basically doing a cleanout is very simple. It's straight common sense. You take the water that's already in your DWC, you dump it out, you rinse out the bucket. I would not do a deep clean in the bucket unless you absolutely have to. This is fresh water after just rinsing out the bucket. And I'm not going to show you that process because, like I said, it's very self-explanatory. You dump out the old water, you put new water in. And then you start adding your nutrients and all that good stuff, whatever you do. I won't get into what I'm using at the moment. You adjust your pH and you put that net pot back on top of your bucket and you're good to go. And again, as always, check your water levels, make sure they're where they're supposed to be, about an inch below the line, which is the bottom of your net pot. Now if you watch my build on how to build this, you know what this line is, you know what these marks are on the tube. That's why it's important to have a tube so you can visually see where you're at. And on this particular bucket, I did not put a 3-gallon mark because it's actually going to be above my line, and I'll never need to go above that now. However, that said, I have 1-gallon markers, and I should probably put half gallons on here now because this is about 2.5 gallons, which takes it to about an inch below my net pot. And that's easier to visualize when trying to calculate your nutrients and all that stuff and how much you need to put in per gallon. And sometimes I'll take a label and put it on the side so I know what my bucket's holding, what the ppm needs to be for each individual plant or stage or whatever. So anyway, don't do a deep clean, just rinse it out, put some water in there, check your ppms with a TDS meter, and go from there. It's very simple. It is necessary, and you will see why if you don't do a clean out. And once you start having a whole bunch of problems with your plants and you want to do, you know, a transition into a next phase or something of that nature, but you're too afraid because you have burnt leaves or discolored leaves or whatever, you'll realize that you probably should have done a clean out. And a clean out will be your best friend in probably a few days after having done so. You'll see healthier plants, more vigorous growth. So just something to look into. A lot of people don't do it and then they wonder why their thing is such a mess. Oh, and by the way, this is regular water straight out of the well or tap. I have an air stone going at the moment in there just to oxygenate the water, kind of stir everything up before I start adding my nutrients. And as I add each particular nutrient, like my HydroGuard, CalMag, and the other nutrients that I'm using, after each one I check the TDS. And before I start adding anything, I check the TDS to see what the ppms are, so I don't overdo it. Alright? So just a basic video on why it's important to do a clean out and how easy it is. And, oh, and by the way, if you have a tube like this, you could just flip this tube over and drain it if your buckets are up elevated off the ground high enough. But in this case, I take my net pot with the plant in it, put it in a secondary bucket that's got water, tap water in it, and just let that sit while I'm doing this clean out. And each bucket takes me about 20 minutes to get done. So just food for thought.